Hey, welcome back. We're breezing through hour 2 here today, and we're talking every day about the markets and politics. But we're coming down now to the end of the year when everybody starts looking at their portfolios and how many capital gains they want to take, what losses they want to take, what they want to carry forward to next year. Everybody's all focused on eating and getting fat and getting gifts, but you got to start thinking about planning your year-end strategy. And to give us some tips of the trade, I call him the real JT, but John Tiralosi joins us today. He's a certified public accountant with Tiralosi and Fabiano.
Yep.
And Uncle JT, you're one of the finest CPAs around. To Frank, you're one of the finest uncles around.
That's
also.
true. Yep.
But what do people need to know as they're starting to get their year end in shape here? What's the big mistake people made that you can give them a quick tip, a little Christmas gift?
Well, if you haven't made all your contributions, make sure you do them before the end of the year. You also want to see what your total deductions are. If you're a married couple, you get a $24,000 a standard deduction that the IRS gives you just automatically. So you have to exceed that number in order to itemize your deductions. So if you have contributions, mortgage interest, those are basically your deductions now.
Just for the layman at home, when you say make sure you've done all your contributions, what's in that?
Charitable.
Charitable.
Your church, Salvation Army, of course.
Is there a max under the new Trump tax plan?
No, it's not a max, but it's generally it's limited to 50% of your adjusted gross
so
income.
for now, for most people, it probably makes sense to take the standard deduction unless you're a super charitable person.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the effect that the tax bill has had on the economy. The Tax Cut and Job Act, now about 2 years old. The president has said this, coupled with deregulation, is part of the reason we're seeing unemployment at a 50-year low. We hear a lot of politicians in New York, New Jersey, and California screaming bloody murder about the limitation on the deductibility of state and local taxes.
Right.
You're in New Jersey. You do a lot of business in New York as well. What effect has the tax reform bill had on those states, basically?
Well, if you were itemizing because you were paying a lot of real estate taxes and state and local income taxes, many people aren't itemizing now because they don't have the deduction. It's limited to $10,000. If you have multiple properties, you can deduct the real estate taxes on those other properties in addition to the $10,000 maximum. But generally, if you had very high real estate taxes and state and local income taxes, you also had a very high income. And many of those people were subject to what's called the alternate minimum tax.
Eesh.
Now, the alternate minimum tax doesn't allow state and local deductions anyway. So if you were a wealthy person paying the alternate minimum, that limitation of $10,000 really doesn't affect you.
So they did away with the alternative minimum tax as part of it?
Not completely, but it's a much higher threshold now.
So let me ask you this, Uncle JT.
Yes.
The Trump tax plan has had an effect. We see household incomes are up $5,000 over the last 2.5 years under Donald Trump. Unemployment's at a 50-year low. African American unemployment is at all-time low. Are you seeing, in your view, I'm not asking you to break any of your non-disclosure or confidentiality, but you feel like people are making more money these days? They're doing a little better, small businesses?
I do think so. A lot of it has to do with, I think the biggest effect with the new tax law was the lowering of corporate income taxes. By doing that, it allowed companies to be more profitable and be more generous with their employees. They want to hold on to good people now. And
where do you
I
think
that's the,
if you had to give me just a rough estimate, do you think the benefit of the more on the bottom line? Do you think small businesses are taking that and investing it in capital expenditures, or they're hiring more people and they're spending more on operating expenses?
I guess it's a mixture. If you don't really need new equipment, you might be better off having either a more solid employment relationship, or you might want to ease up the burden on your other employees by hiring an extra person.
Couple people.
Well, that's a depressing way to end the week,
All
talking
right.
about taxes.
Well, look, I hate to say it, but accounting is depressing. Because at the end of the day, there's usually a number on the bottom that you got to pay.
Fair enough.
So, you know, it's, but, you know, when you bring in a pretty face like this and he's got the credentials to go along with it, it makes the segment a little easier to
Well, have a good
digest.
week.
Yeah, and Uncle JT, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you,
I
JT.
still owe you a drink.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick
definitely
break,
Frank.
more liquid lunch right after this.
Oh, good.
And